Hi everyone, thank you for coming. We know we're in a tough competition with Duncan and the Mythbusters and Thomas Popcorn. My name is Enrico Laursen. I'm system engineer at Lego. And this is my colleague Stefan, Pahrmann. And we work in our hosting department. Last year we were going to move, or the thoughts about moving to a new data center started because one of our data centers had to be demolished, and the reason for that was they wanted to build a new canteen there instead. So obviously, let's kill the data center. Data center 2 had a high risk assessment from the insurance because the neighbor next door was a cardboard factory. So the chance of fire was pretty high. And also from an energy point of view, our data centers was, well, they were like 20 years old. So energy-wise, they weren't very efficient. And power and cooling wasn't really enough anymore. If you wanted to stay in the data center in data center 2, which had the fire problem, we had to expand. So a new data center was bought in Taulau, which is approximately 40 kilometers away from Billund. So the management, the scope, the deliverables for this was we were told to design a new infrastructure based on as much reuse of old equipment as possible. And like that's not kind of like a dream scenario. But anyway, that was what the business case said. We should move 20 years of Lego IT history. So to be honest, there were some systems that we really didn't know much about. Some of the people that had implemented it wasn't in the company anymore. So that was definitely an interesting task. And at that time, when we started the data center relocation, we had around 1,200 servers. We had to virtualize as much as possible. Before we began the relocation, we had a virtualization level of 76%. And the data center that had to be demolished, had to be vacated no later than July 1st. So, obviously, right? That's typical management. So we had to do it ninja style, silently. So, yeah. But more about that later.
Yes. We're switching a bit. Hope we are not confusing you. When we started with the building or planning the new data center, we considered building our own. We already have plans, big plans and detail, where there's a toilet to be in there and the water has to run and it has to be fireproof and so on. But suddenly we got this opportunity to buy a used data center. How much were we? What is the odds for that inside the radius where we live? So we got the offer of buying a data center 40 kilometers from where we have our headquarters. This gave some challenges in our minds about what happens if we have to leave our home location, just pointing to a button, or extremely this. We have about 45 minutes response time. This obviously is a big challenge for us. So we have to, in the planning phase, we have to consider these issues. Also, because we bought this data center, we had some plans about using traditional design. We have 2 data centers right now, and we wanted 2 data centers as well, because everybody does that. We got inspired by Amazon, who actually had 2 data centers or 2 available systems call it, inside one data center, and they just isolate everything. So there's no shared disk, no shared network, and so on. We thought, yes, this could make work as well for us if we still have a disaster center near Billund. So this was actually what we did. Took two data centers, put them into a single data center, isolated them in the zones, and created a disaster site. But we also, according to this challenges, we had to decide how do we handle failovers. Again, we have isolated hardware and so on, but we have to put the layer about where has a failover to happen. How many tiers have we to run? So we took a early decision about that we don't want to do the mirroring in the hardware. We considered using the OS, but we weren't happy about that because of Microsoft clusters. Everybody knows nobody wants to work with that. So we chose the app approach. We have lots of load balances. We have we are going to use DSI as a replicating mechanism for file servers. We are using SQL always on. No shared disks. This is a very good choice. Oracle data guard very used, and this also works in a 3-tier solution. And I'm using Laursen, which basically is the same as Robocon.
So remember I told you about that we had to reuse all our equipment? That didn't happen. Well, as you can see here, we used to use the IBM X3850s, and instead we went using Blades, Dell for our virtual environment. In Billund, we also used to use the Cisco network equipment, and a pretty bold decision was made to use HP network devices instead of Cisco. So that was, I think it's been an exciting trip for our Cisco department, also known as the network department. In Billund, we had the IBM DS 8700 storage, and we're now using, like the IBM DS series is like an enterprise system, whereas the IBM Storewise is now more like a mid-range storage. And before we had to make our own sharing groups, gold, bronze, and silver. Now we have auto sharing, 2 levels.
What's the HP network stuff? Is that cheaper or?
Yes, yeah, it was definitely it was a cost issue. Okay. And our segment department actually whined a lot about that because they really wanted the system. They are educated in system, so they had to learn, especially if we had the time frame. We hadn't mentioned that enough. But we made the decision about buying it in November. We got it delivered in February, and we had to be out of the data center in July. So it was completely new. All of both servers, both storage and network equipment, which we have to implement from scratch. Also.
So on the VMware side, in the old data center we had vSphere 5. In the new one we implemented 5.1. We had one vCenter, we actually still do. But that vCenter is handling our global setup. We have like 20 sites and around 100 hosts. And we had some incidents where storage wasn't available. And that basically meant that our vCenter wasn't available. And we found out that we were quite dependent on vCenter. So what we're going to do in the new data center is we're going to build a vCenter in each zone we have. Zone 1, 2, and the disaster zone. on standalone hosts. Put ESX and put the VMs on top of that. This is an implement yet, but we have some pretty good idea what we want to do. But the important part is to get a solution where we are not down without vCenter. That's pretty important because we have so many VMs, at least we think so, that we need to know what's down, and vCenter is very good at giving us that overview. We used to use the simple switch, vSwitch. Now we have upgraded to the distributed switch using a simple trunk, and the failover policy is route based on physical load, and we're running multi-link vMotion. We have 10G in our network, so that's pretty good. We were actually experimenting a bit with LACP, but somehow it took like 30 seconds to fail over. That's pretty long, whereas the route based on physical load is very quick at switching over to the network or link disappears. We used to have data stores in Billund between 1 and 10 terabytes. Like I said earlier, manual cheering and thick provisioning. Now we're using data stores of 5 terabytes each, put into a data store cluster, and we're using thin provisioning and storage DRS. We had some learnings with storage DRS. I think Stefan is going to talk about that later on. So, we're using the Dell vCenter plugin for deploying hosts. The other stuff, we used to use fixed IP addresses. We're not doing that anymore. Now we're running DHCP wherever possible, which is, from my point of view, actually kind of a relief. DHCP failover over the server 2012. And we're having a lease time of 30 days. So, and that's actually working very good for us, also DNS-wise. Microsoft clustering, we hate it. And as Stefan told before, we're not using shared storage anymore. So we don't have any Microsoft clustering service solutions anymore in our entire infrastructure. So that's a big win for us. Actually, we find that Microsoft clustering causes more downtime than anything else. Yep.
Actual relocation methods. Now we have our data center in Pahrmann. It's not a very big city or town. You heard it in the radio, actually, with the traffic incidents. Only them. So what can we do about getting all the servers inside to the new data center? I take the easy one first. There were some rendering servers. I have no SAN disk. So they could only be pulled out into a car and away you go. And so put them in again, get a new IP address, and that just worked. They were pretty easy, and they were not business critical at all. So pretty easy. Then we had a few physical servers, and we had different workloads. We had big SQL servers, we had big sub servers, we had a file server with about 40 terabytes of data. So how do we get that over without interrupting business? What we did was we made a P2E of the C drive into the new data center. We renamed it so it could coexist with the other one, attached some disks as a where, and made some robocopy. And then at the point when we agreed with business, is it now? Is it is now? Then we renamed the virtual one and the physical one, and did a last sync, and then they were happy. Fun fact about the 40 terabyte disk, it took about 4 weeks to do the initial and we have 2 times 10 gigabits lines to the data center. which are independent. So if one line goes, it's still so we was a lots amount of data. The fun part though, emotion. We had some virtual environment. Yes.
I have a question about the previous.
Yes.
I'm just thinking, couldn't it be possible to restore the data from sort of backup?
It could, but the data had to be transferred under all circumstances. So if you do that by network, or we could do it by tape, but we actually don't have any tape station there, or compatible tape station there. So we had to transport that as well. So we took this approach. Actually, we did that with SQL servers. We did some restore inside and then did a sync afterwards. When we designed the new data center, I said from the beginning, 10 milliseconds latency, not more, not anymore. Okay, why is that? Because then you have the opportunity to migrate them while they're running. They say you're crazy. You can't do that. But they did that, so we get some lines, we had about 2 or 3 milliseconds latency. And then mid-March, when our first ESX host came up in the new environment, we had attached to disk and to the network and configured it, and we could deploy a VM there, and I was eager to test. I really want to see if this really works. And we were happy that version 5.1 just came out 3 or 4 months before that. So it was really new to us. So first try, I went into the vCenter and big disappointment. What is that? I want to move both host and data store. What is that? You probably know the answer. It's not supported in the backline anymore. So, yes, I must admit, I have to go into the web client doing that. Then the first thing I saw, there's a VLAN missing. Yes, it's reasonable. Because we have the pre-motion, the VLAN has to do that. I created a VLAN, I created an empty vSwitch without NICs because all my NICs were allocated to this vSwitch. So let's try. This was a little bit more strange. Actually, we figured out that this is a policy inside, or a setting inside the vCenter, prohibiting doing the move to an empty VLAN. And this is probably because of they don't want to risk that people are going out of network. So what we found out was that this setting, at one setting, is set to false. Something works, and I couldn't get my arms down. And one screaming through the room, yes, we can do it. Big time. So, but the other thing is we have, as Enrico said, we had a 40 service running. And I could say, my finger got hard if I had to do it manually. So I started creating my own script. I have the parameters about network management, or the management port group, which port group I want to migrate to. I define the data store, which is exposed. I can send a mail, and I can even run a script afterwards. For instance, if I have to move a VM and there's some dependency to a SQL database and I have to restart the service inside the guest, I can do that. So what the script actually does is it copies a DNS script inside the guest and it just loops pings our DNS server. And it pings and it keeps pinging. And then in the background we are setting the motion in progress. And at some point the machine is running in the new data center. For some there's no network, of course, because there's an empty pod group. So what does the script inside there do? The VBS script? Hey, I can't ping anymore. I change my IP settings to DHCP. While the script also is changing the port group to the new destination. This meant that we only had a downtime on 5 to 10 seconds per server from operation. So we are actually allowed to do that during daytime. We just had to ask if it is okay that the work does between 10 or 11, that the server is away for 10 or 15 seconds. Yes, please.
What did you do about DNS updates?
We have
DNS is changing from one IP scope to another, right?
yes.
And what about our clients and stuff like that?
Yes.
DNS
I have this, we have designed our DNS infrastructure like that we are able to update our DNS with about 3 seconds. So what we actually do are that we have 2 DNS forwards, selected forwards or conditional forwards, which are pointing to the same domain controller, which shows our actual DNS. So everybody all over the world asks the same DNS server. So if you change it one place, it is replicated. Okay. So, and this is the way we achieved it. The big disadvantage on this one was that we couldn't really predict when it was happening. Because when we take a small server like with 40 gigabytes to times 10 gigabits network connections, took about 20 minutes. That was not that hard. So business, in the next 20 minutes, you probably get a downtime in 50 seconds. That's okay. But we also had servers with 2 terabytes of data. And we started in Kotlin, and then it's much more hard to predict when it happens. And we have to say it happens around 12 and 4 in the evening. But luckily, they were okay with that, most of them.
Stefan, maybe you should mention the script is available.
Yes, I think people know this. The scripts I have scripted for personal information, so you can download it and use it and as you want. If you at some point need something like that.
We in back create a flame.
Did you do the load balancing file network issue?
It's a DNS namespace. So
Okay.
the DNS is updated and
So all the rules are
all the rules are.
DNS.
When we had some issues about TNG, when we have some firewall from some gateways, they only talk IP. So then we had to coordinate that with the guys who kind of change things. But talking with the example, for instance. So we had some single.
You didn't have any issues with cached DNS or any? Okay.
90% of our servers were moved like this without any trouble. Just some point again, something I haven't written. It's somebody probably would say, why didn't you use SRM? It's free too. Yes, it is. But we had a single server instance, vCenter instance, and SRM is not really happy of having 2 instances, or 2 VMs with the same name. So we couldn't really. Yes, I could replicate, or I could forcibly replicate it, but when I deleted the source machine, it also deleted the destination machine, and I just couldn't figure out how this was. And as I talked to the support, they said it's not really supporting a single vCenter configuration. You have to have 2. You don't have them, so we stick with that. The SRM solution would give us the opportunity to predict the time of migrated better than this one. But again, business was okay with that. So yeah, all happy. Some challenges. SCP, it's a new black inside the network world. It is great. It is actually very cool that you just can plug into cables and then you are running. It's very close to the software-defined data center. But what we figured out during using them, that if you have a failover, if you pull one cable, it can go up to 30 seconds before the other cable or the other port is taking it. So you have an off time of about 30 seconds. And this wasn't just good enough. We struggled a lot about that. We were pretty surprised about that it was that way.
Is that the XP?
Excuse me?
Was that the XP switches that did that?
No, it's, yes, in this case it is HP, but as I heard, it's a problem because LCP is a standard, as I understand it.
I think more it's spanning free problem.
Can be.
Because LCP is much faster.
So we just went to using bus switches and did the trunk as before.
Or maybe you were not running spanning free. In XP you have to manually enable
It can be, as I said, we got them delivered in February. Our network guys never had touched the HP system before. So it can easily be that there's some configuration in this. They were to crash course for a week or so, but this don't make them too good.
On the data process, I guess it's 1000 data process you're using. You were talking about 10 gigabit pass-through line. You're not using the higher aggregators on your data center?
No, we have some. I can't really remember how it was, but we have some modules. So we collect them and then
It is possible.
Is it possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was something.
This is our boss, Michael. Just so you know.
Yes, but regarding LSP, it's also one of the drivers behind the decision was also that it's a complexity on the network layer, so you have to do the coordination with the network department. Switching to the physical load, it's automatic, so you don't have to bother. You can plug it into any switch, it will automatically, VMware itself will automatically detect as failure, isolate over. So you decouple the network layer from the hardware layer. And that was one of the primary reasons for doing that. LXP is fine, and you can probably tune it, as you say, to a sub-second load, but the main one, as I said, it's just you're not that dependent on the network when you're configuring this.
So we got this new data center with 2 times 10 gigabit connection. This is fast. Yes, this is really fast. But our backup guys, they weren't actually. They said it's much worse than the building for in our headquarters data center. We couldn't understand that. But what we also figured out is that there's some the distance as or the distance matters because the way the JCP packets are divided into some blocks, and if you have some older OSs, you can really do some dynamic scaling on the TCP windows. So they have to split all the packets into this 64K blocks, except if you run newer OSs. But we still had lots of Windows 2003 servers. And this gave us really lots of challenges. We tested it. Actually, we weren't sure if we got this 10 gig connection. So we actually set a server in the switch, or the core switch, in the data center tower, and the one in the and just optimized the Windows frame size, and we got almost up there to so the connection was okay. Just something you have to be aware of if you put your data center far away, that you have to be sure that you tune your TCP settings. Also, some Rick mentioned that we had this value management pack. We were just student want to use it properly. We deployed our ESX servers and this was fine, and but they also have support for upgrading Pahrmann. And we haven't really thought about that because we just got them from the factory and they must be okay. But we got some strange network outages. And we couldn't figure out what it was. And it took us several weeks to and our boss asked, I'll show you how to update the camera. Yes, it came actually from the factory, so it has to be okay. But some weeks later, when we had to admit that there were newer versions and we got out and running and had no problems. So, this is your boss. Yes, we had implementing storage DRS, and we had some funny case, or not so funny maybe, but storage DRS tried to move our RVM disk, which caused them. It wasn't a coincidence that there also was some minor error in the storage that the disk suddenly disappeared, and it was a big, and it was a subsystem, and it was of course a business critical one. So, but I haven't figured out how to disable it because it shouldn't be able to do it at all. We also had some error, also this system where one of the parts were down, and suddenly we had lots of orphan VMs. And putting the cable back or getting it right again, we didn't really get the VMs back. So also. We were in deep shit then because there were lots of VMs affected then. So we had to manually delete them and re-import them from the data store and guessing where they were. Also using DRS with auto-tiering. DRS is a good thing, auto-tiering is also a good thing. But if, like here, if the VM is moving from LAN 1 to LAN 3, because of high I/O, then there happens something on the storage, and suddenly there's another VM causing high I/O, and they just moving around all the time. This was pretty strange, and we couldn't understand why we had so many storage tiers, but this is probably because of that. Yes.
Our recommendation is that you set it in monitor mode when you have auto-tiering.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not only the IOs. It's also when you want to control your storage thresholds. So, for instance, if we're using thin provisioning, so when suddenly a LAN data store became full, it wants to move the data. When it moves the data to one of the other data stores, it could be that it moved the data from the store SSD disks down to a lower tier disk. And then suddenly you get a lot of latency alarms. So if you want to use it together with auto-tiering, make sure you have enough space in your data stores. Yeah.
Then we also had some serious bug when we had this, let's see, the success with moving our VMs, and then we took our big one. Suddenly our host crashed. The host where the VM, the source VM, were on, just when the things were not there. And we tried again. And then we started again, and 6 hours later, we just again. And then we figured out that there was a KPI outage about that. But there is some issues about heap size. You have to configure it, and you can max, or you can configure the heap size more than the max. So we had to wait for ESX. We got the update 1, and this worked in some cases. But we still have the issues that if you have the big VMs, you still have some you have to migrate. They probably crash because yes.
Can you define big? How big are they?
Yes, we had a server with about 2 terabytes, and it's really easy to reproduce it. Just migrate it and just store it. Yeah, you can combine motion storage with motion, yes.
About CPU RAM? How much is it?
It's not a big one, it was 3 or 4.
It's all the storage.
It was a server. So really didn't do any processing. Just file transfers.
Good thing though is in vSphere 5.5 I heard that the heap size is dynamic. So hopefully that will fix the problem.
Then, as you mentioned, we had some storage errors and we sent it down and we are correcting that. So take that as a note. If you have a slightly larger installation, you have to at least 2 vCenters or to have a backup plan. Last thing about challenges was I mentioned the P2Bs. VMware has a great product, VMware Controller. It does this work most of the time. But if you have a GPT disk, even if you don't want to touch it, the GPT disk is a data drive, it's not a boot drive. VMware Controller simply denies converting it. What we did.
It doesn't update with the latest version. It's possible to do it.
Is it possible now? Right. But what we did was we got this tool PhD. It was a strange way to do it, but it worked for us. It's part of the what is it called? Microsoft system jobs, yes. So we used that, created a PhD, used the Stefan converter, which is free for use. And converted it, and then we had uploaded it to a new environment, and it was on the wrong. Would have preferred the VMware conversion.
Yeah. So little time. This was the project plan for phase 1. In October 2012. Data center was bought. November, December, the new infrastructure design was ready and hardware was purchased. And in January and February, the hardware was implemented. And this put a pretty big load, especially on our network guys, because they had to learn a new operating system almost, like the new HP equipment. And mid-March, the first virtual servers were moved to Tower. And in June, the last server was moved. And we moved approximately 650 servers during a couple of months. So from our point of view, we're pretty happy with that. Phase 2, deadline December 15th. And also a little note, of course we started with Data Center 1 because people got to eat, right? We started mid-September, and status December 1st is that we need to move 26 virtual servers, and then we have moved approximately 1,400 EMs. Like I said in the beginning, we had 1,200. But during those months, our environment has grown. So, yeah. And this was July 29th. Data Center 1. So,
Where's the canteen?
actually, it's still not there. so we put in a lot of hours those months. So, looking back, it's been a great journey. How often do you get the chance to start with a clean sheet? Your boss tells you, rethink your infrastructure. What do you want to do? That's a pretty exciting task, also a bit scary, but, because you have to do it without impacting the business, right? The automation part between 1 and 15 seconds downtime. That definitely made it much more easy for us to talk to our business and to agree on when can we move this server. Actually, we didn't thought it would be that easy to talk to them. If we told them you're down in 15 seconds, they're like, why did you even call?
Didn't you have any servers that had the IP written somewhere static?
Very few, actually.
Yes, and we also had some issues where there were 2 IP addresses actually. And of course, then we have to fix it anyway. But I always dump, or in script, we always dump IP config in the text file, so we knew how it looked before that. So it's good to do this.
Like I said in the beginning, a lot of systems that they were running, but we didn't really know what the design was behind it. So there were also some aliases that we had to fix afterwards, but it was minor things actually.
Do you have any servers with special starter? Like 2 servers, server 1 had to be started first?
Did we have that? You mean some servers with dependencies?
Yeah.
No, because they were up and running all the time.
1 to 15 seconds long.
The OS is still running, it's just a network connection that quickly...
It's just, the OS is running all the time. It's just a network. It's just like you pull out the cable and put in a new one. And we just at DNS and suddenly you do cut. This is where I developed the additional script where you can do a restart of the service, for instance, if you want to. So, but we never used that.
And as those of you who use the distributed switch and data store process and are managed using that, but it made our lives a lot easier. Like I said, we use thin provisioning and we're using deduplication on our file servers. That kind of actually slowed our growth. We have a huge data growth, so this has helped us a lot. You have a question?
Didn't you scratch any servers? You migrate every single one?
I think we have.
We decommissioned some. There were some servers where when we called the responsible person, said, hey, you're responsible for that server, what should we do with that? I don't know anything about that. And then we just, nobody really used the service. So.
I would think approximately around 120 servers, I think, has been shut down.
And then there has been created.
Yeah. Who doesn't have that?
No Hyper-V?
No.
Just a fun fact for the deduplication. I mentioned the server with the 40 terabyte data you have to move after the deduplication. You go down to 12 terabyte.
What layer do you deduplicate on?
OS.
So Windows
2012. Yes.
Native deduplication is in the version 2012.
Okay.
You have great experience with that, so if you consider using it.
What about the MS? Don't you have any smart architects? That's the free.
No.
Actually, we had some, but we could commit them.
Because now we're running, the strategy is to run everything failover in the application layer. Of course, that's what nice clustering is, but we are trying to get people to use all this on instead. Yeah, DHCP was great for us. At first, when we started telling the internal guys we were going to use DHCP on the servers, they were like, what? Because everyone uses fixed IP, it's very traditional to do that. Not anymore.
Yeah, in the start, you talked about reusing of equipment. Since you didn't do that, did you do a calculation about what the impact would be if you had to, of downtime, if you had to reuse the system?
No,
actually, it wouldn't have any impact because we would just have made some rolling movement. So we had empty one host into the so all of the VMs are running on the rest of the cluster, take one VM, put it in the new data center, put it in the new cluster, and start it migrating as well. This would so.
Yeah, okay, but
There wouldn't have been some significant downtime to it.
But if you had to call routers, and you have to take one call router down and put it in the new data center.
Yes. Yes.
And then that position you would be.
Yes. But our design was that it always had to be on, so we always. If you had two routers and we had to have it, probably one.
Yeah, so you have a way to that and build a new data center.
We're almost running out of time. Over here. Yeah. 96% virtualized in Villa. And we have around 2,100 VMs now. So 20% extra virtualized than when we first started. So that's for us. That's really a commitment from the business that they want this. They want it virtualized.
I think we skip that.
You skip that?
Yes. Yes, please.
Your disaster site,
Yes.
how planning on using that? It runs nothing right now, or?
It is actually running. It has some basic stuff like a domain controller, for instance, and we're also using it for serving the Git side. For instance, we had a DHCP server, the master DHCP server is running in the disaster side, and then we have some replica running into the real data center. So because it is closer, so we have some special apps, some SCOM monitoring, which also makes sense. Is into that environment because it's a SCOM disaster site. If all the others not running, we still have the ability to run. There's some empty SQL so you can restore them very quickly.
So do you have some not running text host or?
Yes.
Okay.
It is like the other. It's the same hardware. We have
It's a
some
mirror of the others. So.
Yes.
Okay. I thought it took the old server and put it on the disaster site.
Okay. It was a plan, but kind of changed. So yes.
Did you increase or decrease the number of executables and did you save any licenses?
We increased the number of CPUs. So we went from 4 cores to 2 cores, which decreased the size. We have 512 gigabytes in every server, and we couldn't max it out. And we actually could. We had some cases where we did that, but most of the time we did.
But yeah, we have more CPUs when we first started. We have more hosts now.
Any special thing regarding SSO redundancy to our sites? So redundancy keeps running on SSO.
Oh, you mean on the vCenter?
We still have a single vCenter instance, but we will get a 2-tier, well, actually a 3-tier solution. We want to put in one in each availability zone into the data center and also one in the disaster zone.
That'll be on 5.5.
Yeah.
We have the
We're going to be using a load balancer, and we have some good ideas about it. And I actually spoke to Mike Lavery about it. He was kind of like, "Why? Go ahead."
And NSX and
We're not quite there yet. But virtual networks are definitely interesting. So, any more questions? Thank you for listening. Like you probably can hear, we don't do presenting for a living. So bear with us.
we do legal.
Yeah.